kind of want to talk today as a spiritual father to a bunch of our young people, and even if you're older in the house today, we need to answer this question: what is a man? What is a man? Ladies, don't check out on me right now, okay? Don't you check out on me because no, because you're either dating a man, married to a man, raising a man, or looking for a man. So you need to be able to answer this question: what is a man? This is important for you too, all right? Next week, actually, we're going to answer the question, what is a woman? And Pastor Veronica will be teaching that, so you want to, and guys, you need to be listening to that one too, all right? So today, we need to kind of answer this because, let's be honest, the idea of manhood in the world today is a mess. There's like competing and confusing messaging. On one hand, we're called to be tough, suck it up, toughen up. And on the other message is like, well, you need to get in touch with your feelings. And it's like society can't decide whether men should be a warrior or a therapist. But this is why it matters, because it's not just men who are affected by confusion. It's our families, our churches, and our society as a whole. Because men who don't know what it means to be a man, everybody pays the price. And we see this in the numbers. Did you know that children without a father figure in the home, they are 4 times more likely to live in poverty? 4 times. When fathers are absent, the rate of substance abuse and mental health issues and crime skyrocket. And it's just not issues of stability, it's spirituality too. Research shows that when a mother is active in her faith, her children will follow Jesus 15 to 25% of the time. But when a father is active, practicing his faith, his children are 75% more likely to keep their faith as an adult. Now, that's not a coincidence, and that's not chauvinistic, you guys. That's godly masculinity. Somewhere along the way, society started telling men that fatherhood and masculinity and even their leadership wasn't needed or even wanted. It didn't matter. And yet here we are, confused men and broken families. So today I want to make this clear. Men, you matter. Your presence and role is not negotiable. Society may debate it, but God has already declared it. The Bible says this in 1 Corinthians chapter 16. Men, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. So we're not going to settle for society's opinions and half-hearted masculinity. We're here to step up to the standard that God set, his standard of manhood that is unwavering, it's powerful, and it's with purpose. Now, growing up, like a lot of you guys in here today, I didn't have a father in the home. I was raised by a single mom, and I did not get the definition of manhood defined for me. It was not defined. I had to assume what manhood and what it meant to be a man and what was a man. I had to guess what it meant to be a man by the models I had in the media that I was consuming. And there's a lot of false messages out there about what it means to be a man and man's identity that have contributed to the confusion that we see today. So here's what we're going to do. I want to give you 5 false messages that you have probably heard, if not all of them, most of them, if you're a guy in the room today. You've had to deal with these messaging in one way or the other, directly or indirectly, and we need to expose them and talk about these lies and the false messaging of what it means to be a man. And then we're going to talk about what God says a man is. Amen, y'all? Okay, 5 of them. I got 5 of these false messages. Let's talk about this. One of the craziest messages out there for men today is this. Maybe you heard this. Number 1, men, you need to embrace your feminine side. What the heck is that? When was the last time you told a woman, hey, ladies, you need to toughen up and embrace your masculine side? The double standard is absurd, you guys. Now, I admit, I do have a feminine side. I do. Her name is Veronica. I married her. That's actually why I got married, so I can embrace my feminine side. You know what I'm saying? God created men and women complementary, not competing. I've mentioned this verse a few times. It's worth mentioning again in this series. Genesis chapter 1:27, God created men in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. He's separate, male and female. He created them. God made us different to reflect the different aspects of his image. Men don't need to embrace a feminine side to be balanced. They need to embrace God's side. God created us as men, not half men, not men who are trying to be women. A godly man embodies strength, courage, and compassion, and he doesn't have to abandon his masculine identity to find it. God's design isn't flawed. It's culture's perception that's flawed. Men, I'm telling you today, don't buy into the lie that you need to be something that you're not. We are called to reflect God's character in distinctly masculine ways. And God's design doesn't need fixing, it just needs following. Okay, now here's another message out there that's getting pretty popular today. Number 2, masculinity is toxic and it needs to be fixed. Somehow, by simply being a man is now considered a problem, as if masculinity is inherently dangerous. But here's the thing, the problem isn't masculinity, it's broken masculinity. When men abandon their God-given roles, they go from being the guardians they were called to be to takers that they are not called to be. Some people actually say masculinity is toxic. But if we try to fix masculinity by stripping men away their strength, what do we end up with? We end up with passive men, weak men, men who are afraid to take a stand. And let me tell you something, the last thing we need in today's world is passive men. God's design for men isn't toxic, it's transformative. Psalm 82 says this, that we are called to defend the weak and the fatherless, to uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed, to rescue the weak and the needy, to deliver them from the hand of the wicked. That's the kind of masculinity that God has called us to. It's a strength that serves. It's a power that protects. It's a courage that stands up for others. Godly masculinity isn't about aggression. It's about protection. And here's the truth. When men live out their God calling, they don't become toxic, they become essential. Society desperately needs men who are willing to step up, defend the weak, to care for the vulnerable, to stand up for what's right. That's not toxic. That's actually what Jesus did. And if that is toxic, we need a whole lot more of it than in this world. Here's another cultural message that's gaining traction. Number 3, fatherhood is unimportant. And it's actually optional. It's optional, right? It's not really ideal even. Now, this, my friends, I'm telling you, is a demonic attack. Not just out to destroy men, but to destroy families, your children, our society, and the church, and I'll show you why in just a moment. But look at this cover on Time Magazine. I believe this is one of their most recent covers. The headline says, "The Child-Free Life. When having it all means not having children." That's the message that the world is promoting today. That's like having kids is an inconvenience. And you can just skip that if you want to have this easy, self-focused life. Fatherhood is optional. Parenthood is just an obstacle to the life you really desire. But here's the problem with that. This is a recipe for a broken society. When fathers are missing, we see the impact everywhere. Children without a father figure are more likely to struggle with addiction and poverty and lack of direction. A culture that devalues fatherhood inevitably crumbles and suffers. Fatherhood is not just a personal choice, it's a foundational pillar to a healthy family, community, and society. Actually, this was God's design for fathers to actually turn their heart to their children. Look at Malachi chapter 4. He says, God will turn the hearts of parents to their children, the hearts of children to the parent. See, God's design is for parents, especially fathers, to be deeply connected to their children. A father's heart turned toward his children brings security, strength, and guidance. Fathers matter because they reflect God's heart for the next generation. God designed men to be fathers, and not just biologically, but spiritually too, to lead, protect, to shape future generations. And when we step away from that, we are missing out on something very profound. Men, we got to reject this lie that fatherhood is optional. It's actually what you were created for. Fathers are called to turn their hearts toward their children. This is God's call, his mandate for us. That the world and the enemy would love to convince you that doesn't apply to you. The fathers are called to turn their hearts toward their children, to invest into them, to sacrifice for them, to love them. And let me tell you something, men, that is not an inconvenience, that is an honor. Here's another classic myth that some of you have received, maybe directly or indirectly. Real men don't share their emotions. Apparently, somewhere along the way, strong and silent became the gold standard for masculinity. Some men think that they're supposed to keep a stone face, hide it, just tuck it in. Hide any sign of vulnerability, bottle it all up. Let me tell you something, bottled emotions are like a shaken soda can. Okay, sooner or later, they're going to explode, and the result is going to be broken relationships, fractured homes, hurt people, confused people. This idea that men should hide their emotions does not make us stronger, it just makes us isolated. Look at the example of Jesus, the ultimate model of godly masculinity. In John 11:35, two simple but powerful words, Jesus wept. The shortest verse in the Bible. You want to memorize a verse? Here's your first one, guys. Jesus wept. John 11:35. There you go. Here's Jesus, the Son of God, the Savior, the King of heaven and earth, the very embodiment of strength. He's standing before Lazarus' tomb, one of his good friends, openly weeping. Jesus doesn't hide his emotions. He expressed them, and he wasn't less of a man because he did that. See, real strength isn't about suppressing your emotions. Listen, it's about stewarding them. God gave men emotions to connect, to empathize, to love deeply. And suppressing your emotions doesn't make a man tough. It just makes you a ticking time bomb. Godly men are called to feel, to weep, to rejoice, to stand with others in their pain. And some of you guys need to leave this myth. You need to get rid of this myth. Whoever taught it to you, wherever you picked it up, men, your emotions aren't a weakness. They're a gift from God. Being a man isn't about pretending to be invincible. It's about having the courage to be real. These are just some myths. I think the biggest myths in our culture today, I'm just trying to expose that a lot of us guys have heard and received, and maybe even some of you ladies have bought into. Here's one more myth out there. Number 5, kind of connected to number 4, men don't need deep friendships. We're just wired differently. We don't connect like that. We don't need deep. According to this mindset, a man should be a lone wolf, should be strong and independent, never needing anyone, never leaning on anyone. Apparently, we're supposed to handle life like it's a solo mission, but here's the thing. Even wolves run in packs. The idea that men should go through life without close, meaningful friendships, it isn't just lonely, it's dangerous. Isolation makes us vulnerable to temptation, to burnout, to depression, to discouragement. When men isolate themselves, they become like a charcoal pulled out of the fire. They cool down, they lose their edge, and eventually they burn out. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. God's design is for men to walk through our life together, to challenge each other, to strengthen each other. And yes, to hold each other accountable sometimes when we're getting off track. Godly friendships are not optional. They're essential. The truth is, every man needs other men who will sharpen him. Men who are going to call him up, not just call him out. Men who are going to stand by him, who are going to lift him up when he falls, who are going to celebrate with him when he wins. So men, here, stop buying the lie that we don't need each other. You were made this way, created by God this way, and the culture has lied to you. Somewhere along the line, we picked up some falsehoods. And the real question is, why do we believe them? Why did we receive these lies in the first place? Why did they find a home in our heart, in our mind, in our identity? How did we become so susceptible to lies that are so blatantly against who we are and who we're called to be as men? And the answer often lies in something we carry with us, but few acknowledge, called the father wound. The father wound is an unhealed hurt from a physical, spiritual, or any other father figure. You see, your ideas of manhood, like what is a man, a father, they're often shaped by the man who raised you or didn't raise you. See, when fathers are absent, they're abusive, they're spiritually disconnected, it leaves a mark on us. Many of us, men and women alike, have been marked by our fathers in negative ways that have impacted us. We carry around this invisible wound, this unhealed hurt from a natural physical father, a spiritual father, an emotional father who didn't reflect God's heart toward us. And when that wound is left untreated, it leads to confusion about who we are and what we're called to be as a man. Jesus said this in John 14. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me, he says. And Philip, probably feeling what many of us feel, he goes, Lord, show us the Father, and that'll be enough for us. Philip is crying the same thing we're probably crying today. If you would just show us what a good father looks like, if you would just show me what a perfect father looks like, that would be enough. And Jesus goes further in verse 18. He says, no, I'm not going to leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Here's the heart of Jesus. He knows our wounds, and he promises to be with us, to show us the true nature of our good Father so we don't have to live as orphans, disconnected and confused. See, when we carry a father wound, we start to develop what's called an orphan spirit. And the orphan spirit is manifested in one of two extremes. It either comes in the form of loneliness or neediness. So if you have a father wound, if you've been hurt and it's still unhealed, the way it manifests in your adult life right now, some of you are extremely lonely. You're isolated. You're afraid to trust people. You're afraid to love people. You find it very hard. And that's because somewhere along the way, you got wounded by a father figure or your father, and it's made you a lonely person. Or another extreme is you become needy. You try to fill the gap that was created by the approval from everyone around you. You constantly need to be affirmed and validated, and you run after it. You seek after it. And the moment someone gives it to you, you fall prey to that person. These are forms of father wounds and how they manifest in our life in the orphan spirit. Romans chapter 8 gives us hope, though. It says, all who follow the leading of God's Spirit are God's own sons. Nor are you meant to relapse into the old slavish attitude of fear. You have been adopted into the very family circle of God, and you can say with a full heart, Father, my Father. See, God's answer to this orphan spirit is adoption. He's not just this distant deity. He's a father who brings us into his own family, healing those wounds and teaching us what it means to be a man by showing us his heart. So if you're carrying the weight of a father wound, if you feel like you've been walking around with an orphan spirit, lonely or uncertain or always searching, you need to know, listen, God is here to heal you. He's the father you've been searching for. He's the one who will redefine manhood to you by showing you his perfect love. Let me give you some resources. On the screen, there's so many more resources we have online. If you want to take a picture of this or scan it, on our app and online, we'll have them for you. But let's look, after we've kind of looked at some of the false messages that culture and others have given to us and told us, let's talk about God's design then for manhood. What is God's design for manhood? And I'm not talking about biology. That was week 1. You can go look at the biology. I'm not talking about XY versus XX. It's male, female. Maleness is not the same as manhood, okay? There's a difference between boyhood and manhood. Just because you got a pair of testicles doesn't mean you're a man. Sorry, ladies. When I get talking to guys, I start using guy language and stuff. There's a difference between a boy and a man. I've met 40-year-old boys and I've met 19-year-old men. There's a difference. See, boys are consumers of life. Men are contributors of life. Boys talk about their rights. Men act on their responsibilities. A boy hides his flaws. A man learns from them. Boys chase popularity. Men pursue purpose. Boys want the crown. Men carry the cross. There is a difference between a boy and a man. So when we look at what the Word of God says, and we replace the lies that we receive, whether from culture, from tradition, from your upbringing, from whatever media or models told you, there is a stark contrast and conflict to what God says and what some of you are living. So here's what I want to do. I want to kind of just use the contrast of boyhood versus manhood and what God says a man is. Let me give you 5 of them. Number 1 is this. Men have a vision for their life. Boys live one day at a time. See, boys, they always take the path of least resistance, the easiest route. But men get up and know what they need to do because they know where they're going. And you got to have something that causes you to work toward next week, next month, and next year. And boys take the path of least resistance because they don't know where they're going in life. A man has a vision for his life. Proverbs chapter 29:18 says, where there's no vision, people perish. See, having a vision enables you to say no to something and delay other things. See, if you had a vision, there are some things that you won't do when you have a vision for your life. There are some things other people do that you won't even want to do. There are some things that other people don't do that you will do willingly because you got a different vision for your life. Boys never delay gratification. If they can have the candy now, they'll have it. If mom ain't looking, I'll take it. If a show they want to watch comes out on Netflix, 26 episodes, I'm going to watch all 26, binging those episodes. Let's get it. Right now, can't delay it, got to watch it. A man is able to say no. A man is able to build towards something because he has a vision for his life. Boys live one day at a time. You got no vision. That's a big difference between a boy and a man. Okay, number 2. A man works, but a boy plays. See, a boy gets up. When he gets up, you know what a boy wants to do? He just wants to have fun. I want to have fun. He wants to have a good time. At school, you know what the boy's always looking forward to? Recess. That's what he's looking forward to. It's recess, man. What's your favorite period? Recess. A boy gets up on Saturday, and he doesn't want to contribute. He doesn't want to do chores. He doesn't want to pitch in. Okay, no, this is my time. It's my game time. I worked all week, and so now I'm going to play my game. It's my guy time. Okay? No, a man works. In fact, in a wolf pack, everybody works. And you know what they do to a wolf who doesn't work in the wolf pack? They eat him. Now, I'm not saying we should cook some of you guys, but you want to act like a lone wolf, watch out then. You better pull your weight. Proverbs 12:11 says, those who work their land will have an abundance of food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. That's what boys do. Boys fantasize. They fantasize about a European work week. You know, 30 hours. Oh, I heard they work 30 hours in Europe. Oh, that'll be so good. 4-day work week. Why can't? Oh, that would be great if I could just work a 4-day work week. Boys fantasize of retirement already. You're 24 years old. Strike it rich with what they call passive income. I want to make money without doing nothing. How can I make money without doing nothing? That's my dream right now. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. This is a verse we told our kids growing up. If you don't work, you don't eat. Okay? Men, listen, our capacity to do great things is way beyond what the world is telling you. Men are like, or boys, they're like, man, I put in 40 hours this week. 40 hours is hard. That's a long time. Put in 40 hours this week in my cubicle. Sitting at that computer all day. I'm tired. How do you do it, Pastor? I'm burnt out. I can't do it anymore. When's the next national holiday? You know, we need to invent another holiday so I can get a Monday off. My work is just so hard. I have to sit there, pump out these reports, and get paid for it. Oh. Let me show you what Jesus said. Matthew 5:17. He said, my Father has been working until now, and I've been working. This is what God does. God works. You know that? God works. And Jesus said, I do what the Father was. This is what men do. We value work. You can go all the way back to the book of Genesis, actually. We were created this way. Do you know this, men? Work is not part of the curse. Sometimes theologically, some people think, oh, that's like we're cursed with the work and all. No. God gave Adam a job and work before they ever sinned. He gave him dominion and to work the land and to take care of all the animals and to cultivate the land. He was a worker. See, work isn't part of the curse. Work is part of your worship. It's actually part of how you worship God is work. You were designed this way, man, to work. You work, and you do it really well. And you cannot fulfill what God has called you to be and do if you don't know this, if you're trying to skirt your responsibilities. This is why, for a lot of men now on the other extreme, they can fall into workaholism. They can make work their life. They can make work their wife. They can make work their worship, okay? And the reason why is because God wired you. You were actually created to actually work, okay? It's part of your design. If you look in Genesis, not only did God give, so this is what God did in Genesis. He gave him a job. Before the curse, he gave him a job, okay? Here's the work. Cultivate the land. And then he goes on to say that the man will leave his mother and father, be united to his wife, and then they'll become one flesh. Let me give you the pattern here that from the book of Genesis, men, here's what the pattern is, according to God. You're born, at some point, you got to get a job. Get a job, and then move out find a wife, and then have sex. This is the Genesis. Let me break it down, okay? Because some of you are like, is that what that said? I think that's up for interpretation, Pastor. No. Genesis. You work. You get a job. Leave mama's house. Move out the basement. That's part of the process that you're actually able to sustain a relationship and family. Job. Move out. Get a wife. The Bible says you find a wife, you find a good thing, man, okay? And then you can embrace your feminine side. You know what I mean? That selfish, boyish thought of doing as little as possible, not contributing to the pack, not working hard, will never get the vision. You will never be what God has called you to be, man, if you continue your boyish mindset. Okay, here's the third contrast I want to make. A man works for the team, and a boy plays for the MVP. Okay, I kind of thought of another way to say this after I wrote the notes, but a boy plans to win trophies, and a man works to build a legacy. Okay, see, a boy has to have everything revolving around him. He has to have the spotlight, and if it doesn't go his way, they'll pick up their ball and go home. If it's not fun, they don't want to do it. I'll hear some of these young people, they'll tell me, Pastor Jason, I'm just not passionate about that. You know, I just left that job and left that job because it's just not passionate. What does your passion have to do with it? It was paying you something. It's a job. I'm not passionate about it. What? It's work, bro. It's work. Just, where did this come from? I'm not passionate. Like everything has to be about you. Like, I don't like doing it. No, it's work, bro. Look, and you're like 20-something years old, man. Just work hard, and eventually, if you're good enough at what you're doing, you can spend more time doing the things you're passionate about and less time doing the things that you're not passionate about. But there never will be a phase in your life where you're only doing the stuff that you like and only you like. You selfish boy, stop it. Am I getting too hard on y'all? I love you. I told you I want to speak to you like a spiritual father today, and some of you just need... See, a man works for the team, and a boy plays for the MVP, the trophy, right? And Jesus worked on a team. Do you know Jesus had a team? Not only is it the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, he was originally on the original, the OG team, but he picked 12 disciples, a team of men around him. Lone wolves are losers. They're boys. Men learn to play well with others. That's what it means to be a man. Men learn how to come together and bring everybody's talents and gifts together to do things that couldn't happen if it was just a bunch of individuals. This is actually one of David's greatest failures. David had a massive relapse of boyish tendencies in his life, which often happens today. That's why it's called like the midlife crisis. Let me show you David's midlife crisis in 2 Samuel chapter 11. It says, in the spring, at a time when kings go off to war, and so you got to know, David was older in his life. He wasn't as fast as he used to be, strong as he used to be, and his warriors told him, his mighty men of valor said, David, you almost got killed by this giant. He wasn't even a Goliath-type giant. You almost got killed, and we had to rescue you. You go read about that in 2 Chronicles. You just stay home and govern from the palace, and we got you, David. We're gonna take it from here. So David was having a midlife crisis. Usually when he would go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army, and they destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, and David's sitting back looking like, they're winning without me, they're being victorious, but David remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed, walking around on the roof. Picture this, David, like dejected, not feeling like he's the man, warrior, fighting. He's not good enough to be out there anymore with his boys, and he's out there, can't go to sleep, and he's walking around the rooftop, and there he sees a woman bathing named Bathsheba. Some of y'all know this story. See, David's no longer on the same mission, and he reverts to these boyish tendencies that some of you may be running into right now. It happens all the time. See, when men don't have the same mission that they used to have and they're not able to do what they used to do, they can easily make women their mission. So you all know the story. He sleeps with Uriah, brings her into his house. She gets pregnant. He tries to cover it up. Brings Uriah, the husband, to home from the war. Uriah is one of his men of valor, by the way, one of his like inner circle men. And he's trying to get him to sleep with his wife so it can be covered up, but he won't sleep with his wife because he's a member of a team. And my team's out there, they're not able to, so David kills him. Sacrifices his brother and his team for his personal pleasure. Check this out. I was researching this. By the time a boy is 21, he's played 14,000 hours of video games. That's 14,000 hours of being alone in a dark room. But no, I'm on a team. We call a duty together. That's fantasy. Okay, you're on a team, achieving a fantasy. A fantasy. It ain't real. You're not creating anything real product. The average male under 18 watches 50 porn clips a week. What does this do? This trains you to think of sex like a solo sport. It trains you to have an unrealistic expectation of sex. It trains you to not be satisfied with a real woman and not have a satisfying relationship. Now, I'm not anti-video game. I watched Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and I heard what he had to say about it. All right. But I am anti-porn. And I'm asking you guys to re-examine the things that our culture has told us that are infecting us. They're trying to not only isolate you, but emasculate you as a man. Okay? So a man, he works for a team. Boys, they play for that trophy, that MVP. Number 4, a man, this is huge, a man is a protector, but a boy is a predator. A man is a protector. A boy's a predator. David was a predator to Bathsheba. He was called to protect her, to protect his people. He was a predator to this woman. When he was walking with God, David was an amazing protector. He protected the honor of God with Goliath. He protected his people from God's enemies. When he was on his game, he was amazing. But when he was acting like a boy, he was dangerous. There was this viral video that was circulating for a while. It posed this thought-provoking question to women. Some of you may have heard it. They asked a whole bunch of women, if you were alone in the woods, would you rather encounter a bear or a man? And the response of women was shocking. Most women overwhelmingly responded, I would rather encounter a bear. And to every man, it shocks us. But to every woman goes, yep. And here's why. There's a double-edged sword here. Here's why. One of the reasons is because of culture's message that you've been inundated with as a woman, telling you that men are dangerous. And everything you see and all the news that's coming to you is not all of the stuff about the men who are actually doing good things and the right things. Everything, it's all the bad stuff. And so you are postured in such a way that is not in alignment with this God's, that men are protectors, but that men are actually predators. So that's part of it though, guys. That's part of it. The other part is it's actually a reality that women have to face. This is a crazy statistic. 1 in 5 women on a college campus, 1 in 5 women on college campuses will be raped. 1 in 5. Think about your kids. Think about your girls. In fact, just last night, we had a women's night. Like, there was almost 1,000 women up in here worshiping God. And man, I'm so jealous. These women can worship, man. They just abandon, man. And like, some of y'all just like, I'm so jealous. But the question was posed to the audience of women. How many of you women have been abused sexually, have been sexually mistreated by a man in your life? Sexually mistreated or abused? Every single hand went up. Every single hand. So when on one side, yes, there is a messaging problem, but on the other side, a bunch of men are really just boys. And on behalf of every man, can I tell you, the ladies that are here today are watching, can I tell you, on behalf of every man, I am so sorry for the way that a boy treated you. That was, can I tell you something? That was not a man. That was a boy in man's skin. Okay? Men, here's what you need to do. Stop sleeping with that girl, first of all. You know why? Because you're protecting your future marriage. You're protecting your future wife. If you do get married to this one, you want to protect her future confidence and her ability to trust that you can actually delay gratification. That one day when you're out of town or when she's out of town, she's never going to have to wonder if you're going to be faithful to her because she sees you being faithful to God right now. Boys don't understand that. Boys can't, they don't understand delayed gratification. Okay, if there's two consenting adults, there's no reason I can't have the candy now. I can eat the candy if they want me to have the candy. I can get candy. The idea that we don't do something that feels good and is actually okay with other people it's foreign to boys. Ezekiel 22, God says this through the prophet. He said, I looked at someone among all the people who would build up the wall, who'd actually build my kingdom back and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land so I wouldn't have to destroy it. But I didn't find not one person. I don't know about you, but I want to be a man that protects my kids and my family. How many of you men in here want to be a man that does that? I want to protect my family and build financial saving investment to cover them. I want to be able to protect my friends by telling them things that others won't, by encouraging and speaking life in them, by confronting areas of their character and the cracks in their perspective. Nehemiah says it like this: after I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who's great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. Guys, you're probably never going to have a movie made after you, if you jumping on a grenade or something, the hero. You're never going to save Private Ryan and get him home or something like that. That's not going to be our story, but it will look like maybe bringing the groceries in. It may look like Venmoing your friend some money when he's in need. It may look like seeing somebody getting picked on and bullied and you stepping in and saying something. That's what men do. And when you start doing those things, you're going to actually end up in a minority, which leads to the fifth contrast of men. Okay, number 5, men take a minority position, and boys need to be in the majority. See, boys, they're not comfortable with being in the minority opinion. They got to go with the flow of what culture is saying. Hey, you going to go to small group? You going to go to small group this week? Because if you go, I go. Well, I'll go if you go. Hey, you going to go to men's night? You going to go to men's night? Because if you're not going to go, I'm not going to go. Boys are never okay believing something that culture thinks is incorrect. Boys are not okay with being the weird one. Boys are like, everyone's got to be cool with me. I got to fit in the majority. Men are okay being weird. You're okay if God's okay with you, that's enough. See, boys want to fit in. Men are willing to stand out. Boys mirror the world. Men change the world. You march to the beat of a different drummer. And I'm comfortable having a minority opinion about sex. It's different from what I'm comfortable having a minority opinion about dating and about gender and about heaven and hell and money and tithing. I don't like it. I wish people would agree and like what I said, but I don't expect them to. I know God does. David has this critical moment in his life where he gets criticized for taking a minority position with his wife, Michal. Let me give you the context. The Ark of the Covenant had been in enemy Philistine territory for so long. And David, a man after God's own heart, this worshiper, this psalmist, brings the ark back to the Holy Land, and he dances before the Lord. Just dances. And he's dancing. He's like, these clothes are restricting me. He took off his jacket. He's like, I want to do that one move, and I can't do that move with this jacket on. So he's like getting, I don't know what he was doing. I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Y'all, okay, there you go. Some of y'all know what I'm talking. Where? Down in I don't know what it was, but he was getting down. David was getting down, man. And his wife was in the palace looking down and was disgusted at him and openly rebuked him before the people. You look like a fool, she told him. You're supposed to be this man, and you look like a fool dancing without your robe on. And here's how David responds. 2 Samuel chapter 6. David said to Michal, it was before the Lord that chose me rather than your father, King Saul, before him, or anyone from his house when he appointed me ruler over the Lord's people. I will celebrate before the Lord. This is what I'm going to do. I don't know what you're going to do. I will celebrate before the Lord. I will become even more undignified than this, and I will be humiliated in my own eyes. I'm secure enough in my masculinity that I know God's okay with it. God likes my worship, and that's what matters to me. And some of you guys in worship, you can't give a shout, a praise, you can't even move your hand because you are taking a boyish minority position. You care too much about what other people are thinking about you and not enough about what God thinks about you. You worship like a boy. Like a boy. This is where we got to get to. This is where we got to get to. We got to get to this place where we're okay being different. Where we're okay being the weird one. Where we're okay not fitting in, but standing out. Like, I don't care. Like, even what other people in church think, other people, especially other people in culture think, you got to be willing to be contemptible in culture's eye if you want to ever be accepted in God's eyes, who are ranging to and fro looking for hearts fully committed to him. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. It says this, when I was a child, I talked like a child, thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. Let me tell you right there, whether you're a boy or a girl here, man or woman, that's okay to have a stage of life where you actually talk like one. I got kids, I've raised kids. There was a stage of their life that they were very dependent, very irresponsible, very smelly. Thank God we're not in that stage. I mean, it's like, babe, I'm talking about, you know what I mean? They're good. But that was, my boy's taller than me now. If he still had those problems here, it was cute there. Bro, like, I'm not wiping you anymore. Thank God he's not. I got a good boy. I'm blessed to have a good boy. But there comes a time where the way that you're thinking, the way that you're talking, the way that you are reasoning, prioritizing needs to change if you want to be who God has called you to be. He says, when I became a man, I had to put away childhood behind me. And there might be some things that we've kind of listed here that are conflicting with your lifestyle, with your behaviors, with the way that you think, with your priority even. Like, it's okay to have fun, it's okay to play, but if your priority is to play, then you're not acting like the man God has called you to be. Okay? And there may be some alignment that needs to happen, some readjustment that needs to happen to the heart of God. And Jesus said it like this, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And if you want to see what a real man looks like, if you want to see what a real father looks like, I'm the only way to get you there. And I'm not going to leave you as an orphan. I'm not going to leave you hurt. I'm not going to leave you wounded. I'm going to come for you. When I come back, you're coming with me. And that's an invitation I'd love to give to you. If you need to see, in your heart like Philip, like me, my heart yearned to see a father. It's actually what attracted me to Jesus the most in the gospel, and was the Father, his love for me. I needed it. And some of you are probably in that same place. Like, you need a heavenly Father. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life to that. I'll get you there. I'll show them to you. Hey, thank you for watching the Discovery Church YouTube channel. Don't stop here. Join the Discovery Online family every Sunday. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream event, and share it with a friend. You can also support the ministry by clicking the Give button to help us continue to reach people around the world for Jesus Christ. Thank you again for watching. Go love God, love each other, and change the world.